today we are together with Joe Isaac, and my English will be even more difficult for me today as I just came from the dentist and I'm like numb in half of the face. I will try to drink coffee if I can without spilling all over myself. But welcome, Joe.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Joe, the reason we would like to talk to you is that you also are a fan of unschooling and have been unschooling in your life. And on the way here back from the dentist, I was thinking, I think this will be our around 51 or 52nd episode. And I'm like, how much can we talk about unschooling? But let's see if we can.
We can.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah. So, what does unschooling mean to you, Joe?
Well, unschooling has been our life for 15 years. It means a lot. It's been, mostly everything that we've done since we found unschooling when my son was 3. Our life has pretty much focused on that, and deschooling and learning about unschooling and writing about unschooling. And most of that was me, not my son. He was just doing his thing. Meeting other unschoolers, organizing unschooling meetups. So yeah, it's been everything until my son's 17 now, nearly 18. So yeah. Well, not so much anymore, but yeah, it's been a focus of our life for well over a decade. So it's a lot.
Well, that's a parallel story to ours. So we are on board, except we still have younger children also. So
yeah,
we have one who just turned 18 last week. And
oh wow.
Yeah, technically it's not unschooling, is it? Or is it? Maybe.
No, actually, I was thinking about that when I knew I was going to talk to you, and I was like, are we actually unschooling anymore? I don't know. My son is working pretty much full time and doing his own thing, so I don't really think of it as him being school age anymore, but I guess technically he is. So I guess it's still unschooling until he turns 18.
I don't know. I mean, technically, where we come from, it would be until he's completed 9 years of not being in school, because that's the mandatory. It's not about the age. It's about for how many years did you get an education.
Okay. Yeah.
So he's been off the hook for a few years actually now, but I don't feel a change in real life. Unschooling. I mean, I suppose you feel you don't get up in the morning and then you think, okay, today I'm going to unschool. I mean, unschooling is more something you don't do. You just get up and get on with your life. You go do the things. And for us, it really didn't change when he was off the hook. We didn't feel, oh, now we're unschooling one child less or whatever. It's more like a lifestyle or a philosophy or a perspective than it is a to-do list in my experience.
Yeah, I guess I don't feel like anything's really changed. No more than how my role has changed as Kai got older anyway. So, I'm less the organizer of things now. He organizes his own things, and but support looks different now, but it's still there. In lots of ways, I finding that having an older teenager is a bit like having a toddler. But just he needs a lot of support. But it's very different. Yeah. So a lot of driving around, that's where my job is at the moment is driving him to places until he can take his test. Can't take his test until he's 18 here. So in another few months. So
What Joe, what attracted you towards self-directed learning and unschooling back in the days?
My own school experience. I did terribly badly at school. I didn't like anything about school. I didn't learn the way that school teaches. I was pretty miserable, did very badly. I failed all my English exams when I was 16, and basically came out of school thinking that I was stupid. I was about 18 and I learned there was such a thing as homeschooling, and I was quite angry with my mother and said, why didn't we do this? And she said, I could never homeschool. And from that day, I said, if I ever have children, I'm going to homeschool them. But I didn't have children until I was 35. And but it was still in my head that it was something I wanted to do. But I just finished a PhD and was working in academia, and it all seemed a bit impossible. And then we moved to America, and I was not working. I was working from home, and so that's where where I decided that we were gonna give it a go, and that's around the same time I discovered unschooling as opposed to homeschooling. So, yeah.
That's when your son was 3 years old?
Yeah.
So you've been
we moved to America 2 days before his 3rd birthday, and I'd already been researching unschooling a little bit. And when we got to America, we found a big unschooling group, and I guess that was the start of our journey. So that was a really, they were really important for us early on. Yeah, so that was where I sort of learned about unschooling in the very beginning. Yeah.
So you are now a senior. I mean, you have one completed. You can sort of tick a box.
I guess.
I guess you're
Yeah.
the kind of person, I would have liked to talk to first time I stumbled upon the idea of unschooling children. I mean,
really
what happens? Will they ever get a job? Do they have any friends? Will they learn to read? All these things. Am I ruining everything? How can I explain this to my relatives? All these things.
Yeah.
You play that role.
No, it was great. It was great to have people when we lived in Colorado. There were people with older kids. I mean, they weren't really super old, but they were a lot older than 3. And just to see those kids was really great. That they were great kids, and they had learned to read, and they could talk to people. So those kinds of things. So and it was always really important to me when I found an online community, like mostly Sandra Dodd's groups. There were other people that wrote a lot that had boys that were that much older than my son Kai, and it was great to see what they were doing and that kind of thing. So yeah, those were all really important things that we all worry about, I guess. Yeah, and it's great to have people out there who are writing about it and updating, which I don't do so much anymore. But yeah, I really appreciated that. It was all really important. Stop me panicking.
About the panicking, Joe, I think there's this a fun mix of being a parent already. You can be very afraid. Am I doing the right stuff? Where will I, how have I failed? Will they ever succeed? Am I a shitty dad? It's possible to go down all these roads. And then we as people who decide to take not control, but to take home the education of our children and let them be unschooled, we just put this extra layer on where we will also have this, will they ever learn? And for me, it's a little mixed, because I can be, in the start, my fears were more around would they learn and all this, but I think it's natural as parents to fear in our parenting role. And when you look back at your journey, did any of the fears come true, or are you quite happy?
No fears came true, and very happy.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess you've got all those milestones and, learning to read. And my son didn't, he didn't like to be, there was kind of all these things that I remember reading when he was really small, that, you know, make sure you read to your children and they'll learn maths from playing with Lego and all those kinds of things. But my son hated to be read to, and he hated Lego. So I was like, oh, this is a disaster. So, but he did learn to read, and he can, you know, he can add up and subtract and do all those things, and we didn't need to read to him, and didn't need to play with Lego. So I think it was interesting just to see that you know, he didn't like all the stereotypical things where people go, oh, they'll learn from doing this, or, you know, hated craft, like craft actually made him anxious. Like, you really, you know, like, no, just no craft at all. So yeah, all of those things we just didn't do. But we did our own things, and we found the things he did love, and he learned from doing all the things he loved, even if they didn't look like the things everybody else loved. And so yeah. But yeah, there were certainly, you know, panicky moments, and you know, probably till he was about, I don't know, it was I mean, it's deschooling is constant, and even now that he's older, there's still things that you move through, and it's just looked differently. You know, once he learned to read, that was like, okay, he learned to read, and then there was always something else to move through, and, you know, then he went through a kind of the cocoon stage where he lived in his bedroom on computer games for, you know, 2 years when he was sort of 12 and 13, and you know, we moved through that, and I was glad that we were pretty deschooled by then. Like, that was not, I was expecting that, and it was all good, and he's always been a really keen gamer, and he has a really amazing community of gamers all over the world. A lot of them are unschoolers that we've met through, you know, I've met their parents through Sandra's groups, and then the kids have all come together online, and they all still talk to each other. They used to play Dungeons and Dragons together. You know, lots of them live in Canada, and so that's been really great. And yeah, and now we're moving through the, you know, older, more social teenage years where he's, you know, wanting to go to parties and that kind of thing. So yeah. But yes, that was a long answer, but yes, we're very happy, and nothing terrible happened.
I think I sometimes go through the same stages. It's just as if the circle is much longer. So in the beginning, I would have I called them black days, days of darkness. I did call it something in Danish that I'm trying to translate right now. And they would happen now and then. And now they happen, I don't know, once a year or twice.
Yeah.
It's not like it will ever stop. I think sometimes I will revisit the decisions and feel the doubt. And I'm not worried about academia anymore at all. Our youngest has just turned 12, so we still have our hands on the years that would probably be schooling years. But I don't worry a second about the academia anymore. But sometimes I do think about, I don't know, I wouldn't want them in school. What I do think about these days is more, you talk about all this community that you've had, and I think it's hard. It's been hard for us to find it.
Yeah.
Other people.
I mean, we've moved around a lot. Not for the last 9 years, but early on when Kai was little, we moved country and state and all over the place. Went to America. We came back to Australia, and in some places we were really lucky. So I guess my first experience when we found Unschooling was in Colorado, where we had this amazing community, and then we came back to Australia and we moved to Tasmania, and it wasn't like that at all. And that was hard. Having had that support in the community and then not being able to find it was really difficult. Then we moved to Adelaide, and we had a little community, but it was still really important. But where we live now in Melbourne, there's a really, when Kai was younger, there was a really big unschooling community, and we all knew each other from online. And then Sandra came to do Always Learning Live in 2014 or something, 10 years ago. My goodness. And we all met with Sandra, and yeah, so our kids at that point were all similar ages and all unschooled. A lot of them went off to school and stuff over the years, but that was really good. And my son is still best friends with some of those kids who are still unschooled. So yeah, Melbourne's been really good. And he expressed that he didn't want to keep moving when we moved here. He was like, okay, like I want to stay still. So yeah, and it's also very easy to homeschool in Victoria. So all those things contributed to us say, okay, we're going to stay here until you're over school age, which we have. So yeah.
I will put you on the spot here with a question I'm not even sure how I myself would answer. So you cannot fail at all. So
this is a test.
Yeah, this is a test. So how would you define unschooling or self-directed learning? Yeah, as I said, I'm not sure how I would answer it.
I don't know. In my head, I'm seeing like bumper stickers, like live like school doesn't exist.
Yeah,
which is true, but it's more than that. It's more than just living like school doesn't exist, because school does exist. You can't live like it doesn't because everybody else is doing it. So
yeah,
your family and things. I think how would I define unschooling? I guess from a learning perspective, it's learning from doing the things that you love. From a parental point of view, it's supporting your kids to learn from the things that they love and helping them do the things that they love, and not judging the things that they love, definitely.
That one can be hard sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, it can. But it's also like, I think, it's the key, and I think it's what a lot of parents struggle with, especially when your kids don't love the things that you love and you're not familiar with the things that they love. Like
you just have to knit all by yourself,
right? And I really hated history at school, like just the way that school taught history. And my son loves history, and like but it's actually been quite healing in the end that I have learned to love history through, doing fun things with him and going to museums and expeditions and all those kinds of things. So, but in the beginning, it was, I expect to have a kid that did like Lego and did like craft and didn't like any of those things. Yeah, I think defining unschooling is really, it's really difficult, and I think there are like multiple definitions depending on who you're talking about. Like, what's the definition for the unschooled child? What's the definition for the parent? And a lot of it is having a ridiculous amount of self-confidence, or else just faking it. Faking that like faking your confidence, fake it till you make it, because everybody will judge you, and you have to explain to everybody that you meet ever, and still with a nearly 18-year-old, I'm sure you get it too. New people at work, when they ask if Kai's in. So if Kai were at school here, he would be in year 12, which is the big year. That's when they have the big exams. So people ask that all the time, is he doing his, VCE, which is the big Victorian, final exams? And I'm like, no, he's homeschooled. And then it's like Groundhog Day, you explain it all again. And unschooling to me is really just having faith in the process and faith in yourself and your kids, I think. That was a terrible answer, sorry.
Now you passed the
I
test.
think it was also a terrible question
Yeah, yeah.
because in many ways, how do you define something you don't do? The interesting
No,
part is
yeah,
more what we do, and that's a lot of other things. And Groundhog Day wise, if we were talking to someone who'd never heard about the concept before, we would have to explain these things that we don't teach these ways. We don't have a curriculum. We don't do exams. It's everything you think of at school, just take that out of the equation, and then I'll start explaining to you how we do it. And also you talk about he learned in this and that and the other way, but really, I suppose that was not the focal point of your lifestyle, what he would learn or not learn. Maybe
no,
in the beginning, but then the shoulders come down and you start trusting the process and you start just living life, and that becomes actually so much more interesting. And my children, our children, of course, they can do some math and they know about whatever history, geography, these academics, these things that they learn in school. But really what is the juice of it is the things we learn about life, about what keeps us happy. How can we be how can we be the how can we be the people we really want to be in our relations with our friends, each other, the grandparents, even the people we meet in the shops? How do we handle our white privileged Europeans as we are? All these things, how do we manage? How do we get up in the morning and make sure we're still happy when we go to bed at night? That's just so much more interesting.
Yeah.
But it's just level 5 or 6 to even start talking about these things. And you said having faith. To me, it's a centerpiece, the trust thing. We trust each other, we trust the process, we trust that they will come to us with whatever worries or needs or ideas that they have, and they trust us to love them no matter what and support them no matter what and help them to achieve whatever it is or try things out, even if it's something I can't see the point of it. I don't see the point of it. First person shooter games, let me just put it out there. I really struggle to see the point of it, but I do see fun. I see my sons laughing, and I mean, and I also see that I enjoy knitting a lot, and people I respect don't. I mean, I do know that we're different.
And I think that in the beginning that's hard. I found that hard to to get excited about things I didn't think I was excited about, like things he was excited about. And in gaming, I mean, Kai started gaming when he was like 5 or something. I think we got our first console when he was 5 or 6. And that was a steep learning curve for me. Like learning to, I remember like way back in the day when Minecraft was sort of first came out and you had to install mods. And like learning to install mods in Minecraft frame and
I would just call up my engineer friends. I mean, I really I gave up. I will admit it. I couldn't do it.
I had unschooling mom friends that were doing it for their little bit older sons, and I'd be like, how do I do this? But like all those things, and he got his first gaming desktop, and we had to put it together and like set it all up and get it online and all those things, and not things that I ever saw in my future that I would learn to do, but we did it together, and now he doesn't need my help, so now it's just learning to drive that he needs my help, and that's a new journey.
You mentioned your own journey, how you didn't have a good experience in school. Have this process of going through it with your son, has it healed some of your own wounds of learning, or was it just the school? Did you enjoy learning back then, but just didn't enjoy school, or was it mixed so you didn't?
No, I think school really put me off learning. I think when I left school, I said I'm never going to go to a museum again, and all these, like, school ruined all of that for me. So yeah, it has been really healing. All those things, as a parent of an unschooler, that, you know, like there was, say, a museum exhibit on the Roman Empire, you know, Kai would want to go to that. And so, but yeah, we did all that, and in lots of ways, I mean, I went back to university as a mature age student anyway, so, but that was to do something I loved. So I'm an ecologist. So I'd already kind of refound my love of learning in things that I wanted to learn about. But with Kai, I found the love of learning things that wouldn't particularly, I would have thought, were interesting to me. So things outside of science, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, it has been really healing, and you know, I can safely say I do love history now, and you know, we've been to some amazing exhibits, and I'm still not quite as into it as he is, but yeah, it's we've done so many things that that I would never have done otherwise if we hadn't unschooled. I would never have gone to, you know, Comic-Con or PAX, or, you know, learn all these things about gaming and cosplay and all those kinds of things. So yeah, it's definitely broadened my knowledge as well as his. So yeah, it's definitely being healing.
I also think now that, well, our sons have almost the same age, so
Yeah,
I think we have a parallel thing going on. But I also have a almost 25-year-old daughter, and then we have two younger kids also. So we sort of have 2 adults and 2 children at the moment. And I think that all of these things that I've learned to be interested in, or at least supportive about, and that I've learned about, not because I wanted to, but because this was part of my child's life. It has also put me in a situation where I now have these young adult people in my circle, and I know them really well, and we have a lot to talk about. And we can go for a walk for the next 5 hours and not run out of things to discuss or explore together. And I just feel that the relationship we have is so much more powerful because we've done all these things together during their life. And also because we know that if we sometimes, this happens sometimes with my son, who is the same age as your son, that sometimes we run out of things we do together. Because really, you know, he's into reading, and he reads a different kind of literature than I do, so we don't read the same books. And he will absorb a lot of hours doing that, and then he's studying math, and I can already do the math, so I'll help him, but it's not like really an adventure for me. But then we can sit down and say, hey, we need something we do together, and we come up with some weird idea about embroidery or studying Roman Empire, whatever, because we've learned this, you know, whatever it is, we just need some common ground. And I'm just wondering, what would have happened had we not had this experience of all these years of doing things together and knowing
things together. Yeah.
If I'd let him off.
I guess lately, especially, you know, over Christmas, we're still part of a quite big homeschooling community, and my son and I have ended up at the same parties because, you know, like, the adults and the kids are all at the same parties, and it's kind of like, I don't, you know, that wouldn't have happened if he was at school. You know, New Year's Eve, we were at the same New Year's Eve party, and it's funny, actually, you said, my son reads completely different literature to me. He just finished War and Peace, and I have never in my life wanted to read War and Peace, but he loved it. Sitting on the shelf, and I will not read it. And he's also learning some higher math now. I don't know what he's doing, but he occasionally calls me in for some helping. I'm not usually very helpful. But it sounds like our sons are doing similar things. So, yeah, my son is actually... been away for the last 2 weeks on his first holiday with a friend. So he's actually coming home today. And so that's been a really big thing for him and me. So he's they're due back today and they've had an amazing time. And so that's been I guess something for me to work through, and big road trip, and they've been driving and surfing and
they have had that time of their life.
They have, I think they have at the time of, but yeah, I'm guessing.
But doesn't make it easy. I remember when our 18-year-old, when she was 18, our daughter moved away from home.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, she's 24 now, so
it's been a while now.
Yeah, it's been a while, but the first couple of months was weird.
Months, nonstop.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been weird, but
what I did all day long.
Yeah, we'll have lots to talk about for a while. You'll be filling me in gradually on the trip and all that kind of thing. And we find things to do. We during the day I work a lot now. Now Kai's older and he works most days now. He's a lifeguard at a local pool, so he's working a lot. But we come together at night and we watch shows. Like, that's kind of our time together, and we'll watch a show and have hot chocolate, and that's kind of our evenings are our time together. So that's been, I really missed that in the last 2 weeks. So yeah, he's coming home a day early. I have to say I'm a little bit happy he's come home a day early. So
Joe, for the people wanting to start on this path of homeschooling, unschooling, and who are curious, what are your advice to them?
I think if you've got little kids, go slowly, read from. It's difficult because there's so many sources of unschooling information and they're not all equal. So I don't want to go into that too much, but find a source that you think is reliable, someone whose writing you like to read. Everybody likes reading a different person. Join some groups, ask some questions, and I always think it's the kind of basic thing that is always, how do we start? Like, start like you're on a holiday. Like, start like you're on school holidays. What would you do on school holidays? You let your kids sleep in. You don't make them do work, hopefully. I guess some people do. And you do fun things. You go out and you go fun places. Do that and then just carry on. So but while you're doing that, you deschooling is real, and you will panic, and that's all normal. Don't panic because you're panicking. It's everybody panics, and if you can, it's not available to everybody. We've gone through places where we've had amazing community and places where we haven't. It definitely helps, but it's not the end of the world if you don't have a local community. There's online communities, utilize them, and like I said, like from all over the world. I mean, we've gone and visited people in Australia and all over the world that I've met online in the unschooling community, and that's been amazing. People in England and Canada, people from Canada have come here and visited us in Australia. We met Sandra and a lot of the, I guess, older unschoolers, with grown kids now, and they're traveling and they've come over and I've met them, and that's been really valuable and really important to me. And I guess another piece of advice would be to join a group. I guess Facebook was the place to do that. I don't really know if things have sort of changed in Facebook now, but and keep reading, and when you feel more confident, start responding to people. I think I a lot of my deschooling came out from me responding to other people, because you kind of work through your own problems by answering somebody else's. Or there was a whole lot of years there where in my head, if I was worried about something, I'd go, what would Sandra do? So I would try and channel Sandra's answer in my head and go, okay, Sandra would do this. So yeah. Or Sandra would say this. And so that was really helpful. And I think I wasn't the only person that did that. Yeah, it's
your story about sleeping in reminded me of we love to co-live with friends and family when we travel. Right now we are together with some wonderful people we met at a World Schooling event. But in Denmark, we also have friends who have their kids in public school or private school. And I remember often we have hung out during the holidays, but then we stayed with my good friend during the weekend, and then the Monday came, and I was like, why are you waking your kids up so early? I mean, it was so weird for me. The idea that you should be somewhere at 8 o'clock in the morning, I was like,
oh yeah, no.
That's why are you doing that to kids and pretending they should be awake enough to learn something? It was just this is like 12 years down the path or something for us. It was just like, what's happening? It's really weird. Yeah.
No, my son has taken to setting an alarm for like 6 a.m. I don't know why he wants to get up at 6 a.m. But I'm just like, don't wake me up. I just start, I mean, I mostly work from home unless I'm out. So I start work whenever I feel ready. So, which is fabulous. And I don't know how I'd cope if I had to be in an office at 9 o'clock, because all these years of unschooling, we've just woken up, when we wanted, and had breakfast when we wanted. I really hate to rush breakfast now. Like, that's like my pet peeve. I'm like, I'd rather not have breakfast than have to rush breakfast. So, leisurely breakfasts and all those things. And I think, you're so much more ready to start your day and know what you want to do for the day when you've got time to catch your breath in the morning and really. And we usually have breakfast together at the table now. And it's kind of it's an important
it's one of the freedoms that would be very hard for me to give up. If we had to change our lifestyle, is the freedom to decide over my day and my morning. I really enjoy waking up and doing my yoga. Now I need to reschedule a little because I have said yes to a task where I need to be available for some wonderful people in Denmark 2 hours every morning. And we are in Mexico, so that's just stupid.
Wow.
Find something as well.
So I will wake up 4:30 and then have a good morning with some meetings and stuff. And then I will do my yoga.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Last week I was away for work, which was actually really good because it was Kai's first week away. So I was actually busy doing work and we were doing bird surveys. So I was actually having to get up at, like 4:30 to be up with the birds. And that's fine to do for work for a week. But now I'm back to my normal routine and that's good. So, I think we can all get up if we have to. I really prefer not to. So, yeah.
I think the privilege of time can be put right next to the privilege of trust as one of the core elements if we're trying to define unschooling, or at least talk about the centerpieces. The fact that
I think it goes, it goes for the evenings as well. People are rushing to get their kids in bed because they've got to get up early for school. Whereas, if you're not doing that and people can go to bed and they're actually tired, or you can spend, really important hours, like we do, watching shows and chatting and just spending time together. It's just it's so valuable. And I just can't, like you said, 12 years on, I just can't imagine that your whole life being a rush and a battle for everything, a battle to make your kids go to bed and a battle to get your kids up in the morning, and you'd be just fighting about everything and food and all those things. And
It's not
yeah,
easy.
obviously
It really
I
isn't.
work with people who, sorry.
I'm just saying it's not easy. It really is a trap. Once you're
No,
in
I
that
just I
whole
think
treadmill kind of situation, it's very hard to get out of it. And
I think
it
that's something that
absorbs a lot
people
of.
say, oh, I could never homeschool, or you know, I could never do that. And I'm like, I couldn't do school. You know, I couldn't do the school run and get up and then force my kid into bed, and I just I couldn't do that. You know, I'm most of the women I work with I've got kids in school, and you know, at the moment they're all desperate for it's school holidays here. It's summer, obviously, in Melbourne, so it's the big summer school holidays, and they're desperate for their kids to go back to school so that they can do what they want. And it just makes me really sad. You know, that they're like, oh, only 2 more weeks left, and I'm just like, my son's been away for 2 weeks, and I can't wait for him to be back. It's just not. It's I guess having the privilege of having the relationship we've had and all the time, I just can't imagine it now. But I guess that's why they can't imagine what we do either. It works both ways, I guess.
Yeah. I
think you're sitting on something.
No, no. It was just this. When we started homeschooling, I remember a sentence I said was, I was still the dad going to work, and Cecilia was staying at home, and it felt like I had holiday all the time, because even though I needed to go away from the family, and I could be a little not sad, but you know, sometimes in the winter I looked at them snuggling under the duvet, and I had to go out and bike to work and stuff like that. But I didn't have to rush anybody. I didn't have
you just had to be quiet, because
I just had to sleeping. Yeah, they were still sleeping and things like that. And I was envious sometimes, but I didn't need to rush anybody. I didn't need to take the kids to an institution. We had them in.
You had the easiest life of a father of 4.
It was so easy.
Not anyone with anything.
No breakfast. No, I just woke up.
No hands to wash.
Went to work, and when I came home, I had untired children.
Where are my socks from? You know, all these things.
Yeah, it was good. It was so easy. No, but then also the value of coming home to someone who are not tired. So I really enjoyed the evenings we had together.
And also, I mean, and you had like, you know, if you've got kids, particularly older kids in high school, you know, they've got so much homework, and, you know, it's kind of a rush, you know, get in, eat dinner, do your homework, go to bed, and just no downtime. And, you know, I feel like particularly at that age, like those teenagers, they really need that downtime. Like they do a lot of thinking and things, and
oh my God,
if there's no time to do all of that, you know, mad stuff that goes on in their brains as teenagers, like, you know, that causes problems. You know, they really work through things, and to not have time to do that is a real problem, I think.
I think it's a real problem, and we also see teenagers with real problems. And
absolutely,
you know,
and like, you know, I've watched my son, and he spends a lot of time, you know, mulling things over, and then when he's ready, he'll come and talk to me about it. You know, and he's got other friends. He's got a lot of older friends who were also home or unschooled, and he talks to them, and that processing. In older teenagers, it's so important, and to not, you know, have any downtime or space to do that. Like you said, it's a real problem.
I'm just thinking back to when I was in high school, and we were 24, 28 in the class. All those social interactions, it's crazy to imagine that you have time to take it all really in, and work through the different emotions.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But back in our days, we didn't have smartphones. at least, you know, you had to cope with what you heard with your ears and saw with your eyes, and situations where you were physically present, or a person in front of you talked about it and shared with you what happened.
Yeah.
And I would walk home or bike home. I'd be on my own with my own thoughts. No one would call me or text me or whatever. Email didn't even exist, or it was a new thing. I didn't have an email in high school.
No.
I think it was just after
no.
at university. I got that. So the peace that we had, even though you think about it and you think you had no peace, but we did have a lot of peace.
Yeah.
In reality, I could go home and read my books and forget about high school when I was home. I could walk in the park. But they are online all the time now. And it's not just people they know, it's also people they only know online, which can be a nice and good thing, but it can also just be an overwhelming, massive influence of half anonymous people you don't really know who are, but they have opinions, and I think
I mean,
it's changed a lot how it looks today.
I don't that's not something we really had to deal with. Like, Kai's not really, I mean, he's gaming all the time, but he doesn't really use his phone much. He's on Instagram and he never posts, to the point where I'm like, please post something about your trip. I'd like to see some photos. So, but I do know, you know, he's got friends, and I'm generalizing wildly, but mostly the girls, that seems to be more of a thing, that they're online on their phones a lot, and Instagram and Twitter and all those kinds of things. But yeah, I have to admit that's not something we've really dealt with specifically. So, but you're right. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I think, and also we didn't have as much homework, you know, like there's just so much work now, you know.
But it's classical when you make a test and see that the level of learning is going down, then you just add more homework or something else to see if that would work.
I mean, it's good to see now that a lot of schools have realised that, and there are schools that are the same. But then, you know, I mean, I've got friends whose kids go to private schools, and you know, they expect that, they want it because that's what they're paying for. So, you know, that's a thing too. But yeah, I just think giving kids downtime is just it's
the
so valuable.
I think it's the changing gear from being to doing and back, which is a life lesson many adults need as well. And for me, at least, unschooling is very much about being and allowing for the being, and for the young persons to walk through life understanding that being is enough. I think that's what I'm trying to show, while at the same time I do recommend my children to do things. If you want to learn to speak Spanish fluently, you'd have to study or in some way. You know, I'm not saying it has to be in a school-based way, but I'm just saying that I do recommend them to do things. But I think the core of our unschooling journey is very much to try to show them that being is enough. And
I think so. I've always had, like, particularly in the beginning, it was kind of like people are really quick to say, oh, you just watched TV, you're like, what a waste of time, you're wasting time, like, and that was, you know, the mind shift was, is it really a waste of time? Like, if you watched a TV show and you really enjoyed it and you got to relax, like, it's not a waste of time at all. Like, that's a pretty good you know, focus and spend of your time. And I guess my son, I don't know whether your older kids, as they went through their older teens, like, he quite often feels like he hasn't done enough in the day. Like, he'll go, oh, I wish I'd have done more. And, you know, I'm kind of, I think it's kind of a normal teenager-y thing to go through. And, you know, I wish I'd done whatever. And he's like, oh, I wasted all morning playing video games. I'm like, but did you waste the time? Like, I feel like, you know, you had fun and you were laughing and talking to your friends, and it's not a waste of time. Like, it's really important time. So I think that's a really schooly thing. It kind of is like, you know, wasted time or wasted food or any of those things. Like, and they're all things you need to rethink as you go through the deschooling process. What's, you know, downtime is important, not a waste of time. So yeah,
It's just being time.
Yeah, being time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and
yeah.
That might be the point of the whole thing, to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You said you're working with women. What kind of work is that?
So
That's not the biology thing, I think.
I'm an ecologist. Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, myself and another woman started our own ecology consultancy. So yeah, we're the only female-owned and operated ecological consultancy in Melbourne. And yeah, so we don't just employ women. We don't just employ women though. But yeah, most of our team are women at the moment.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been really amazing. Again, that was not something I imagined I would do in my 50s. But here I am. And yeah, it's you know, obviously not something I could have done when Kai was smaller, because it's quite time intensive now. Hence me not managing to talk to you until now, when you've been trying to
Well, here we are.
Here we are. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. And Kai has actually worked for us a little bit, and helped out with some surveys and things, but he wanted to do his own thing. I think myself and his dad are ecologists, and I think he was like, that's your thing and I want to do something else. So
yeah, that makes sense.
He's really it's actually an unschooling friend who got him the job as a lifeguard, so he's really enjoying lifeguarding. And it's summertime, so the outdoor pool's open, and he really loves it. So
it's summertime.
Yeah. Here we are.
Time in Mexico.
So cold there.
Not where we are.
Oh, you're in Tijuana, right? So it can't be cold there.
Yeah, it's a little cold. Yeah.
Is it? No, well,
yeah,
we're in the middle of a storm in Melbourne, even though it's summer. We've had a very rainy summer, so it doesn't look like summer today.
No. It's very changeable. We can, if the sun is out, you can like really enjoy it, and when there's clouds, it gets cold, and in the night it's cold. But we enjoy it. We enjoy the traveling a lot.
Yeah.
I would love us to end up with some advices from you to new unschoolers, homeschoolers out there. We talked a little about finding the sources and the community. Is there, when you look back at your life, is there anything you now can say to yourself, oh, if I have known that or done that about homeschooling, unschooling, then... So what would you say to yourself is maybe my answer.
Question.
Yeah, question. Yeah. Yeah, that's I can't blame the anesthesia on that one.
You did really well.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can talk after you've been to the dentist.
No.
What would I say to myself? Relax, I think. Just be more trusting. Trust that humans are hardwired to learn. You can't stop us. We're going to learn even if we don't think we are. I remember saying to my son, and when he was learning to read, he's like, and I said, soon there'll be a time when you look at that sign and you will read it without even thinking. Like, you won't be able to not read it. And that was such a weird concept to him then. And but here we are. But I think, relax, really work on your own self-confidence. And if something doesn't feel right, like, I guess my biggest regrets were actually before we found unschooling. When I first had Kai, we lived in a community where not many people had kids, and the people that did have kids were, more authoritarian parents, I guess. They smacked their kids, they did cry to sleep. Yeah. And for me, I didn't know any attachment parents. Wasn't really a thing where Kai was born. We lived in Northern Australia at that point. And none of that felt right to me, but I didn't have anybody to talk to about it, and I didn't know about the online community really then. So I wish I'd listened to myself more back then. You know, I wish we'd co-slept earlier than we did. I mean, we did end up co-sleeping, but not till I found Unschooling. So Kai was a lot older. I wish I'd breastfed on demand, and I didn't, and all those kinds of things. So, yeah, I guess, you know, if you keep questioning things, you know, figure out why are you questioning it, and you know, yeah, work on your own self-confidence and trust in yourself and the process, and that, yeah.
I think
I think grow a thick skin is really important in schooling, you know, because you need a thick skin. People are going to argue with you all the time, forever. So
no, that's right. And it's, for us, it was absolutely more, probably also for you in the start. You had to talk a lot about it and explain. Now I'm like, we can talk about it, but we have been doing so much reading, so much thinking. Do you really want to have this conversation?
Yeah. I've got friends who are much better at talking to new people than I am. I tend to just, I don't know, I just go, oh, I can't have this conversation again.
Dog day.
But
yeah.
It's I mean, even Kai, you know, he gets, you know, people are like, you know, where do you go to school? Like, you know, he's got a whole new you know, social circle of work friends that they're like, assume that he's in high school and assume he's in his VCE year, and so he's got to tell them, and he comes back going, oh, I'm so sick of talking about it. So yeah, it's I mean, it's a little bit easier here because Annie, who is also an unschooler, she's the one that got Kai the job, and her son also works as a lifeguard, and so they're all unschooled, and so it's most of the people at the pool at least know that we homeschool, so it's not quite the big deal that it might be elsewhere, but yeah.
But I think it was some wonderful advice to one's former self and to the people out there listening. Trust more in yourself and relax about it. It will come. Joe, it's about time.
I think it's easier said than done to relax, but yeah, if you can.
Oh yeah.
That's why it's a good piece of advice. You know, maybe make a sticker note and put it everywhere, and say relax.
Yeah, relax. I've got Sandra's magnets on the fridge still, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But Joe, thanks a lot for your time. It was wonderful talking more about this wonderful subject once again. And
thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Yeah.